Okay, so one of the things you don't want to do with your motorbike is crash it. And when you say crash on a motorbike, normally you think it's going to be pretty bad, but as you can see, my little bump was just a little bump. Felt serious at the time, but now I've had a chance to look over it, she's looking okay, so looks like we got away with it. I'll wheel her out now and I'll just show you. We got no
hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 yeah, go. Hustle hard, hustle every single day. I'll be making.
You're probably going to want to see the footage, aren't you? So I'll show you when I've figured out how to blur the number plate of the person who I bumped into, because there was no damage to their vehicle, so they just weren't bothered about going through insurance. And looking at it, the damage on mine's not that bad.
Go, 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 still go, 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 slow, you still go, go, there's no hope, you still go, I go, so long, I still go.
Fuck me. If I'd have had another foot, I probably would have stopped, but as it was, that foot wasn't there, and I just bumped into the back of the car. It actually made me lift out of my seat, but I think what actually happened is I kind of tumbled over the front, so the bike fell on its left hand side, which I'm kind of grateful of, because on the other side's the exhaust, and if it had fallen on that, that could have been catastrophe. But as it is, fell on the left hand side, so actually because I went past the bike, it didn't actually fall on me, so I was expecting there to be lots of touch points where things have got scratched, but in the end this peg, because it lifts up, actually lifted up and got scuffed on the bottom. I snapped the gear lever, so that was one thing which was a little bit fortunate again, because no gears is difficult to get home. I do have breakdown recovery, but in the end she was in third gear with the gear lever broken. I couldn't change gear. I tried to do it with my hands and it just wasn't happening. It needed that leverage. So fortunately, third gear, being a V-twin, was absolutely no problem. She would go from a standing still, and in third gear I could do like 60 miles an hour. So I actually rode her home. I was actually feeling a bit like faint. I was probably just in a little bit of shock at the time. I took a pretty good tumble at the end of the day. Going over the handlebars of a bike is not something that you just laugh about. So yeah, but I rode her home, but it was fortunately only like 20 minutes, if that, 15 minutes, so we're okay. So I've managed to find somewhere that sells just the gear lever, and I've put the old peg on, and that's all gone back together really well. The actual bracket, the Cognito motor bracket, it's not even remotely bent. So the main bit of damage really was this very expensive KZ 650 SR tank, which I bought and paid a lot of money for, which was in almost perfect condition. It has actually got a slight dent here that it had when I bought it, but now it's got the imprint of my controls in the tank. So I am pretty gutted about that. Let's get rid of these. Pretty gutted, but at the end of the day, if you've been in a crash, like, so I hit the car, I've checked, the gap here hasn't changed, nothing's got bent. I mean, like I said, I nearly stopped. Everything's working fine, so everything's in line. These handlebars needed readjusting again, because when it fell on the left hand side, it pushed the bar across and the lever rotated round. But look, even this is only barely scratched, and I thought this would get smashed in completely, but it's actually just got a scuff on it. I made a bracket. This tank, I've disconnected it at the moment. It's not actually connected to the petcock. and I made it. It came without the tangs at the back that normally fix it down, but I wanted the M unit on display, so I came up with this idea of magnets. So I've got 2 magnets holding it on there, and before the crash they were really strong, and they're not actually quite flat to the metal plate that they're touching. So now it used to really snatch, and now it's kind of okay but not that great. So I think I needed to do a little bit of work on that bracket and get it back to how it should be, which was absolutely rock solid. But one to the naysayers, because when I put it up on some of the forums, a few of the guys were like, that's really dangerous, that tank's going to go flying in a crash. Well, I can tell you, the bruises on the inside of my thigh will prove that that tank does not come off in a crash. All right, so yeah, let me show you the dent kit quickly. This is a dent repair kit. You know, you can get many dent repair kits, but I got the parts that I needed to do the job, so I'll talk you through them a little bit. I've watched lots of videos about it, and you know, this might work, it might not work, but we'll give it a go. Normally what you do with a dent is you push it from behind and you get lever bars. So I haven't bought them yet. I'm just going to have a go at trying to pull the dent out, and the way that works is you get various tabs for different sizes of dents, but I'm going to be targeting these small ones that are the same size as the controls that dented it. So I'm going to, basically you get hot glue. I've got a couple of sticks. I haven't figured out what the different colours are for yet, but I'll find out. But the idea is you hot glue it to where the dent is, and then you get a puller that hooks over the right side. I'm really struggling with my left hand after the accident. And then you give it a smack with the hammer, and it'll either pull the dent or it'll just pull off. But either way, it will start to bring the dent out, and then you just reapply the hot glue, blah, blah, blah. You've got scrapers to get the hot glue off, but you just use alcohol, that brings the hot glue off. And then the idea is that you pull a dent out, and then there'll be little high spots, and you use this little drift, if you like, and you tap it back down again. This is a little sort of like what do you call it, neoprene and rubber hammer. So the idea is that you pull the big dent out, and then you tap down the small areas, and you keep doing that process until you get it back to where it should be. I may need to push from behind as well, and if I do, I'll get some pry bars, some special pry bars. They've got like they've got tips similar to this. So this one, these tips come off, and you've got various different tips for taking down different high spots. And then those pry bars come with similar things. They have balls on the end or points, depending on what you need to do to push it out. Now it is on an awkward spot, and chances are I won't do a very good job, but you know, we worked on this bike as much as possible on our own, and this is a challenge I'm willing to take on. So we'll give it a whirl. We've partly fixed her, she's back on the road, we can ride her, and then we've got those minor tweaks to sort out. We're going to have a go at that dent, we're going to do the best we can, and I'll do a separate video on that. So it's just a case of getting back on the road. Thanks for watching, thanks for sticking with me. Please don't have an accident on your bike, stay safe, see you in the next episode.